So in this video, we will focus on the growth and structural change, especially economic growth and the economic structural change. So economic growth in the simplest meaning of the term can be visualized as an increase in the total amount of goods and services available, and is usually measured by the GDP. So when we look at the growth and structural change in China, it has to relate to the changing of the government regulation, the policies. So that's why we're starting from the overview of the new China's history. So before 1949, it is not the China. So since 1949, the People's Republic of China, which also called PRC, are established on October 1st. And so that is the big day. We also call it National Day. So before 1949, it is not the same China as we've seen before. And so the first era, we call it socialist era, is from 1949 to 1978. So during this period of time, there is a very important policy. It's called the Big Push Industrialization. So this big push definitely affecting the China's economy growth and also changing the whole structure of the economy. So you're gonna remember this date, this period, 1949 to 1978. So what's happened since 1978? So since 1978, we call it market transition. So what happened is starting from 1978, and the government started to pushing the market economy. So which means before 1978, China is pure government commanded economy. So everything happened because the government designed it. So after 1979, China start to follow the Western country, start to open up the market, start to not let the market run by themselves, just slowly. And the People's Bank of China, we call it PBC, was established in 1983. And currently we have 9 region branches, which is trying to establish a very similar system as the US, the Federal Reserve Bank. So in the Federal Reserve Bank in the United States have 12 regional branches instead of 9. So China tried to follow American to establish the central bank, which is mainly control the fiscal policy, the monetary policy, and also try to control the money supply. And so instead of government fully control on the money supply, and they will have a central bank, which is like organization to decide how much money will apply. And also since 1978, and the government started to changing the way they're managing the corporation. So before 1978, all the corporation is owned by the government, and since 1978, and the government start to privatize the corporation. So instead of government run the corporation, government only control the major share of the corporation, and that the private sector to run by themselves. And also since 1978, and the Chinese government tried very hard to join the global organizations such as the World Trade Organization, try to open up Chinese market to allow the international trade. And in December 2001, and China officially became a member of the World Trade Organization. So this is overview of the China's history. The reason I try to do this overview is try to emphasize a couple of the important dates, 1978 and also 2003. So let's look at a couple of graphs. So the first graph is China's GDP growth. So you can see it was growing pretty slow at very slow before 1978. So you can see it's very slow. Starting from 1978, we can see a going up trend. So the growth rate started to grow relatively faster, and in 2003, and you can see a huge increase in GDP. So what's happened? So the GDP I'm showing you here is measured by the dollar, and also it is measured by the real current values. So which means it is the real GDP. So how about the growth rate? So you can see at the very beginning, China has a very huge growth rate, almost 20%, and then it still dropped. And also in 1976 and 1978, the growth rate all become negative. And then in 2003, and the growth rate starts to going back, and then recently it's going down. So what's happening behind these two charts? So that's what we're going to talk about, the growth of the China's economy and also the structural change. So first we have to look at the investment change in China. China have a huge growth in 1949, 1978, and then 2013, and we did experience different phase. So what caused those changes? So number one is because investment. So what happened in China, as we mentioned about big push in the industrialization, and China has a very high investment rate, and is the main reason to cause a fast growth of the Chinese economy. And so Chinese government understand that in order to become the developed country, the industrialization has to go in fast. So China, starting as America, similar as America, is a huge agriculture, have a huge agriculture sector, and later start to move on to the industrial start to grow industrial sector. And so the 4% of GDP is contributed by the foreign investment. And so it's not a lot. So we have a high investment rate, but the foreign investment actually only have 4% of GDP. So the Chinese investment is fully financed through the Chinese domestic saving. So Chinese people like saving. And my parents save a lot, and I love saving too. And so the saving is the main source to support the investment. It's totally different from the American. And so the foreign direct, so then the question is, seem like the Chinese can totally rely on the domestic market. Why they still need a foreign investment is for two reasons: the opportunity brought in from a foreign investment, and also the special technology bringing the foreign investment. That's why the China government do rely on the foreign direct investment, try to learn new things. So what we see, learn economic theory, that is about diminishing return on investment, which means eventually the investment will be able to stabilize, or in another way is the growth of the investment. The investment rate will start to decrease at one point. It doesn't happen in China. So the main reason is because the technology advancement. So the foreign direct investment coming to China bring the new technology, and the domestic market will start to learn the new technology, and then they will fully funded by the domestic economy to support investment. So that's why what we see during the past decades, since 1949, the investment rate is keep very high. So before 1978, the reason we have high investment rate is because the government play a very important role. Since the majority of financing is from domestic market, the government can fully support it. So after 1978, China started to open up the market, let the market run by itself. But we still seeing pretty high investment rate. As I said, it's because we see the technology advancement, and also in the China since 1978, the investment is most of the investment rely on the inventory accumulation. So what's the difference between inventory accumulation and fixed capital formation? So the inventory accumulation means the government tried to build up unsound project, and they try to destroy it and rebuild it. So that's why that's a funny thing when I was a kid growing up in China. So the road can be rebuilt a couple times in 5 years. That's what I see, because the concrete they're using is not good, or the freight trip they're using is not good. It's not they cannot afford it, because the GDP growth is rely on the inventory accumulation. So that is very unique, and that's something many people have to pay attention. That's why being economists, we always question about the measurement. So whether GDP is a good thing to measure the economy, and that's definitely a huge question when we apply GDP, try to use the GDP to measure the China's economy. And so this is in terms of the investment.